Regular people are capable of performing some tasks professionally, others decently enough, and still others require practice. Then there is Trudeau, who is incapable of performing any task properly. No matter how big or small the task at hand,
I like how he's got teary eyes.
The Calgary Stampede showcases how the Prime Minister is incapable of doing even the most basic tasks required of him as Prime Minister, such as showing up on time, upholding Canadian traditions, or even flipping a pancake. Throughout it all, he also demonstrated his own hypocrisy. Stick around to see how Trudeau ruined the Calgary Stampede and made the entire celebration a showcase of his own inadequacy. While Trudeau put every reason not to re-elect him on display, Pierre Poilievre did quite the opposite. Find out everything that went down at the Calgary Stampede, and at the end of the video, we'll break down what it means for Trudeau's re-election campaign. Welcome back to Street Politics Canada. The Calgary Stampede is one...
I did actually watch the Calgary Stampede parade live, and yeah, I saw Poilievre on the, riding his horse with his wife there, and I was like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, he's in the parade, etc., etc. And then I heard that Trudeau was there. He wasn't in the parade, and I was thinking, oh, okay. And then I found out that generally, the PM is involved in the parade, and I was like, okay, that's a little weird that he's not in the parade. But I also know that people in Calgary or in Alberta in general do not like Trudeau. I have seen more F Trudeau bumper stickers, signs, and flags here than I've seen anywhere else in my entire life. I was thinking, if he comes here, he must... I don't know if he would see them because he drives in a motorcade, but if he did, it just seems like a very hostile place for him, that people feel about the federal government, that they've just sort of abandoned them, kind of, like Alberta. Like, they don't care about Alberta. They take advantage of Alberta, take it for granted. I've only been out here for a year, but this is definitely how I feel. I'm literally go to Costco, and people talk to me in line about Trudeau. They're like, Trudeau, F that guy, and here's why. And I'm like, oh my God, okay.
One of Canada's oldest traditions. The 10-day-long celebration began 137 years ago back in 1886 and attracts almost 1 million people each year. The greatest outdoor show on Earth is one of the largest rodeos in the world, so with all the fanfare you'd expect Trudeau to put his best foot forward. That's the opposite of what happened, though. Right from the start, Trudeau showed that he was breaking with tradition. It was clear the whole event was just supposed to be a photo op for the Prime Minister who couldn't even be bothered to arrive on time.
Are we surprised, though? I feel like that's with every politician, realistically. They're coming there to get photo ops and to get, hey, I was here, and talk to some supporters and, make an impact so they get votes.
While Trudeau definitely got some carefully curated photo ops as he glad-handed the crowds, not everyone at the Stampede was happy to see him.
That's what I mean, these F Trudeau flags, I see it on people's cars and on trucks and stuff. I'm just like, oh my God.
And unlike the countless prime ministers who marched in the parade before, Trudeau decided to sit back and relax. He must have been tired after walking in so many pride parades last month. While Trudeau was taking the back seat, Poilievre did everything you'd expect Canada's prime minister to do. Marching in the parade with his wife, attending the events, and rallying the support of voters. Poilievre seems completely unafraid of the voters arriving at the Stampede and embracing the outpouring of support.
He's also from Calgary, and he's also a conservative leader, and he's in a welcoming place for a conservative leader.
Checks for our people in this country again. We're going to remove the government gatekeepers that block our brilliant immigrants from working these documents with the National Blue Cheat Seal testing exam. Immigrant professionals will be able to prove their qualifications within 6...
On the other hand, Trudeau seemed intent on hiding from everyone, arriving in an entire motorcade and reportedly staying in his hotel room rather than joining the parade. It's easy to see why when everyone in Calgary made it clear that Trudeau was not welcome at the Stampede. The Calgary...
I tried to get answers from the PM if he has a job offer lined up after the election. So that's a pointed question because they think he'll be done. Campaign speech for one of his ministers was a disaster. Okay.
Stampede was likely a huge wake-up call for Trudeau, who was quickly becoming unwelcome in any city or province in our country.
Is he, though? Is he? I don't know if that's true. Definitely he would be in Alberta, but if he's in like Toronto or in Ottawa, like I don't think people are going to be acting that way.
If you don't remember, the same thing happened last year when Trudeau was publicly called out as a traitor while giving a speech.
Great to see you here. Great to see so many people understand you. So many happy people here. I'm glad you're here with my son Xavier as well. I know you're lots of you out here with families as well.
You'd think that by now Trudeau would have learned not to attend an event where he is so unwelcome. Yet, he keeps coming back. It seems like his behavior is pretty similar to his policies. It doesn't matter if you don't like them. He'll shove them down your throat anyways. Everyone...
Yeah, but he is the PM, and if it is sort of like the PM's responsibility to show up at these events, can you really fault him for that? Or are we saying that it's optional, that the PM doesn't need to be there? Is that what we're saying? But then you know the leader of the opposition, right? Poilievre is going to be there. So then you just have Poilievre show up, and then the Prime Minister doesn't show up, and how does that look? I don't think it's so simple that you can just be like, hey, you shouldn't be here because people don't like you. There's some people who like Trudeau in Alberta, obviously. There has to be. There can't just be, like, none.
Everyone knows that the Calgary Stampede has long been an event for political hopefuls and established politicians to gain support.
There you
So
go.
the contrast between Poilievre's reception and Trudeau's makes it almost obvious where voters' hearts and minds are at.
Yeah, but it's Alberta, so you can't judge all of Canada on this, because as we know from the last election, Alberta went like all blue, and it did like nothing to the election, because Trudeau still won, because he got like all the other centers in Eastern Canada, where it's like the urban centers. It's just, and obviously BC, he would probably get as well. So, I mean, what? Like, you're acknowledging it's a political space, that if that's what they're there to do, then you make fun of him for it, but then you're like, that's what it's all about. Like, that's what they do all the time. So it just seems like you're contradicting yourself in this video. Like, what do you want him to do? Just give up. Basically, you want him to give up. But he's not going to give up. He wants to keep his job. He's got a cushy life going on, right?
Pierre took the opportunity to send his message to voters, saying,
And I feel right at home here. I'm not sure that Mr. Trudeau felt at home here over the last few days, eh? He was going around town trying to find somebody who would support his 61-cent a liter carbon tax, and no one was buying in. Our excellent and very strong Premier Danielle Smith told him exactly where to go. Cost of living is rising. Hard work doesn't pay. Housing costs.
That Danielle Smith interview was like ridiculous. Literally within the first, I don't know, minute, she was like, yeah, Trudeau came over here to discuss the climate initiative, and here are the targets that they've set, and we've just told them, like, no, we're not going to meet those targets. They're unrealistic. Or, you know, but we're going to do this by this time, et cetera, et cetera. Trudeau's just sitting there with the look on his face, like...
But of course, we do have some serious things that we need to discuss. I had sent a letter to the Prime Minister saying that we'd like to bring our emissions reduction and energy development plan with a target of carbon neutrality by 2050 in alignment with some of the objectives of the federal government. And that will require us to have some conversations about 3 areas that I don't think we have agreement on yet, but I hope to. We would like to establish a working group so that we could talk about how we might be able to achieve a net zero power grid, but I've indicated to the Prime Minister that that is not possible by 2035, which is the federal target. We've been told that by our experts here. We also know that an emissions cap or emissions reduction, such as the one that's been proposed, of 42% by 2030 would also result in essentially a production cap, which we don't think is realistic or feasible as well.
Costs have doubled, and people living in their parents' basements till they're age 45. Crime and chaos, drugs and disorder are common now in our streets, and our freedoms are under attack while the Prime Minister disrespects and dishonors Western Canadians just like his father did. He believed in erasing the differences rather than hardening them. He believed in individual identity and personal merit rather than group identity and collectivism that we see today. He believed that individuals should have the freedom to make their own choices. He believed in the freedom of enterprise, freedom of trade, freedom of religion, freedom of thought, freedom of expression. Those were things that liberals used to believe in. After all, the root word of liberal is liberty. And you know, liberals always believed in liberty while conservatives believed in conserving it. That's why we had this common sense consensus for so long in Canada. What we see with Justin Trudeau today is an entirely different ideological creature.
Yeah, but you got to remember that it's not just a Canadian thing. This is exactly what's happening in the United States, right? There's ideology that's running it. Same with Great Britain, you know, England and France and a lot of these European nations. So let's not just pretend it's only Trudeau and only Canada. It's a lot of countries, and it's something that's, I guess, societal change. And I would agree that we need to, I don't know, like, alter it so it's not so crazy. I think there's some good things, but it needs to be altered. It needs to be tempered. Maybe that's a better word. It needs to be tempered. And Trudeau is not going to do that. So obviously, I don't care to have him be in anymore, to be elected anymore. And it seems like my options are Poilievre, really, because Jagmeet Singh just seems like Trudeau, essentially, all over again. The Green Party's whatever, and the PPC, well, with Maxime Bernier, just kind of seems like, well, first of all, I don't think they're going to get elected because they're not getting enough votes. But even if they were to get elected, it seems a little bit too far to the right.
He believes in controlling your money by raising a carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. He believes in controlling your industry by destroying the energy sector in this province. He believes in controlling your thoughts and words by censoring the internet. He believes in dividing people into groups so that they can more easily be controlled. Wokeism is about nothing more than control. More power in his hands, less freedom for the people. It is exactly the opposite of what we need in this country, and that is why we will restore the Canada that you know and that we love, a Canada which is the freest nation on earth.
Hear,
Clearly,
hear, hear,
Calgary native
hear.
accord with voters this week. His speech and actions at the Calgary Stampede show us what the opposition leader would be like as prime minister. A far cry from Trudeau, who could have won a look-alike
Wait, I'm like, is that him? He is very close to that guy.
contest with Katie Lang. Throughout the event, Trudeau dodged reporters and citizens trying to confront him with facts. Once again, we're witnessing the most classic Trudeau move, simply ignoring the question when it hits hard. This time, he ran to his car just to avoid it.
What do you mean the question? The question is, will you take accountability for your incompetence as prime minister? Come on. Come on. It's a dumbass question. Seriously. Let's not pretend like this was like this amazing question. He dodged it. No, it's a dumbass bad faith question. You're basically saying you suck and are you going to take responsibility? It's not like a real question. It's not like, hey, what are you going to do to, I don't know, change the gas prices or help the economy or something? Although I wouldn't expect him to give a great answer, but you're asking it like a dumbass question. It's just so stupid. Can we get some real questions? Can we get some real journalists out there asking real questions? And then if he dodges them or gives a stupid answer, we can judge it, not these dumbass questions.
And the reporter was only asking one question.
Did
When
say
will you
good
take
day to you,
responsibility
sir?
for your own incompetence? This alone seems
Why? The way he says it, he's like, he was only asking one question. Take responsibility for your incompetence. So stupid. Like, how do you make this video and be like, we gotcha. We got you. We asked you that question. You dodged it. You clearly can't handle the fire. You can't handle the heat. We got you with that question.
seems to have destroyed the prime minister. Makes you wonder how he'd fare in a debate against Poilievre. But this wasn't the only question that Trudeau tried to avoid.
Do you have a job lined up after the election?
Here he acts as if he is
That's also a dumbass question, which I mentioned before. Do you have a job lined up after the election? He's not going to sit there and be like, yeah, actually, I'm going to go work for Pfizer, or I don't know. He's going to go work for Bombardier and start building, like, subway train cars or become a school teacher again. Or, like, come on. Politicians are not going to sit there and be like, yes, well, I'm probably going to lose, so yeah, I have a job lined up.
too busy taking selfies to have even heard the question. It seems that if you're in a position of power, you can just choose what you want to answer. If the difference is between Poilievre
Just because he's in a position of power, he needs to answer like dumbass questions? Come on. It's obviously a question from bad faith.
and Trudeau, we're not clear at this point. One event really highlighted who is the better candidate.
This is so dumb.
Is this pancake
Seriously?
an analogy for Trudeau's ability to run our country? They say the first pancake is the messiest.
This is so stupid. Oh my god, he's just flipping a pancake. He probably hasn't cooked anything in ages. He's the prime minister. He probably has like... He's too busy to cook, probably, first of all. And likely, like, he probably has someone cooking for him. Whether it's... It might not even be his wife. It's probably like a chef. Like, come on. Seriously.
But we are 3 terms in by now, and Trudeau still hasn't mastered it. I think it's safe to say he never will. And why is he that nervous? For comparison, when Poilievre took a turn, he flipped it like a pro.
What do you mean, why is he that nervous? First of all, you're looking at an uncooked pancake, right? It's cooked on one side. He's flipping it. There's batter on the other side. He brought it up too high, and it splattered, of course, because he doesn't know what he's doing. Or he's not thinking, whatever, because it's a freaking pancake, and he probably doesn't do this. Whereas we have here Pierre, granted, great skills balancing the pancake, but it's also a cooked pancake, and he's not flipping it onto a grill, and it's splashing. And maybe he flipped a whole bunch of pancakes. I don't know. But this doesn't mean anything. It just means that Trudeau likely doesn't cook at all, or very, very rarely. And Pierre probably does some cooking once in a while, and so he has decent skills, or good skills.
It seems like this is a guy who knows how to handle problems rather than create them. In all
'Cause he
fairness,
flipped a
flipping a
pancake.
pancake is not the same as running a country. But we've seen Trudeau's sad
Thank you.
attempts at it for far too long. It's about time we let someone else take a turn. Well,
I can agree with that. We should let Pierre get a turn, but it has to be voted, so people obviously have to agree. So that will be how we work this out. We'll see when the election happens. But I would like to see him get in. I think it would be good.
well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think of Poilievre and Trudeau's participation in the Stampede? Do you think Trudeau will attend next year? Or will he take pancake-making lessons to prepare? Let us know in the comments below.
Are people actually commenting about the pancake? They're like, oh my god, did you see him trying to flip that pancake? Oh, he like splattered it everywhere. It was terrible. Of course he'll be back. He's a politician, like you said. It's a political thing that it's to boost your political standing is why they're there. So of course he's going to be there. Come on. So stupid. All right. I don't know what you guys think about that. Please comment down below. I think you totally know my take already. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you again on the next one.